Aloha, welcome to the Mr.G podcast. This is episode number 12. I'm not really from New York. I just talk like I am sometimes. Okay, so here we are today. Today we're going to be going over the NBA Finals, previous champions in NBA Finals history. Yesterday we did 1989 to 1999 because 1989 is about how far back I can go. I know I'm looking like a fucking senior sometimes. Other days I'm looking like I'm in my 20s. I'm going to go ahead with the contact lenses, clean shaved, clean haircut, military cut soon. So that usually takes 10 to 15 years off, no doubt. But yesterday we did 10 years, 89 to 99. Today we're going to try to do 10 years, 99 to 2009. I'm looking forward to today's basketball game, just like every basketball fan is. Game 6 in Miami. Miami is up 3-2, so they can close out. The Boston Celtics have won the last two games after going down 3-0 to start the series. So it's the only series happening. Everybody in the NBA, everybody that loves the NBA, everybody that loves basketball worldwide is going to be watching this game. I imagine courtside seats are going for $40,000, $50,000. I didn't watch the last two games that the Celtics won. That's probably why the Celtics won, really. So this game I am going to watch. I have a frozen pizza ready, some ice cream afterwards to celebrate. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Duncan Robinson go to their second NBA Finals. And that's going to be awesome. So that we're going to talk about that tomorrow, the result of Game 6. Hypothetically, if the Celtics do win, it will go to Game 7, which makes it even more exciting. But today we're going to talk about previous NBA Finals from the years 1999 to, we'll try to get to 2009. I don't think we'll get that far. So in 1999, I remember it clearly, the San Antonio Spurs winning their first championship. They were called the Twin Towers. David Robinson and Tim Duncan. Avery Johnson was their point guard. Sean Elliott was an all-star. And they had a great team that year, and they finally got over the hump, and they finally brought a professional sports championship to the city of San Antonio. And San Antonio had never been connected in a more of a community than it was at that time. San Antonio's a small community financially. They have what per capita income is very small. San Antonio's 3/4 Latino. And also San Antonio is one of the largest cities in the country area-wise. So it's spread out completely. It's a huge city, and people from one side of the city don't necessarily always go to the other side of the city. So me and my brother, we were from the northeast side, and we rarely ventured out from the northeast side as kids, as teenagers, and even in our 20s and 30s. And people that grow up in the suburbs of San Antonio, they rarely go into San Antonio. People that grow on the south side of San Antonio, they rarely leave the south side of San Antonio. Me, I was a door-to-door salesman in San Antonio for 4 years and very successful at it. And I got to see the whole city of San Antonio. So I got to learn and, really develop a love for the community. The San Antonio Express News, the newspaper that I worked for, has been a longtime sponsor of the San Antonio Spurs. And the newspaper and the Spurs always went hand in hand. Selling the newspaper subscriptions door to door, it gave me an excuse to talk about the San Antonio Spurs. But I remember the headline of the front page of 1999 when the Spurs won the championship, and it had Tim Duncan and David Robinson. One of them was holding up the championship trophy, and Robinson was holding up the championship trophy, and Duncan was holding up the MVP trophy, and it said Twin Towers. And we put that on the wall, and we were so proud, much more proud than the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar poster our father and sisters gave us when we were 8 years old. But it was a wonderful moment, and I remember being in downtown and just being so happy and proud of my city for one of the first times. And then came the year 2000, and in 2000, Kobe Bryant went on a tear. That was the first year of their three-peats where Kobe Bryant, beat Allen Iverson in the year 2000. And also, I had a very attractive girlfriend at the time that did not like basketball, so I figured I should impress it. And even though I loved basketball up to that point, during the playoffs of 2000, The Spurs were eliminated by the Phoenix Suns, I believe, and I didn't even watch a single game. I have no visual memories of it. I listened to some of the games on the radio, but one reason why I didn't go to the extent to see any of those playoff games in the year 2000, uh, except for the championship series with Iverson and Kobe, the reason was because my girlfriend didn't like basketball. My attention was on her at that time. Looking back, when you're in a relationship, you want to have common interest and you don't want to just give up something for somebody else, especially if you guys aren't necessarily clicking. So I was young and dumb and full of nice, wholesome is what I was full of. All right. And so in 2000, I didn't watch that, but I believe, the finals were I know the Lakers won their first championship in 2000, Kobe Bryant. And then against the Philadelphia 76ers, and you always remember Allen Iverson stepping over. I forget the player's name. He went on to be a coach, but Allen Iverson was just like a legend. Even though he didn't win championships, he was as tough and as legendary. And if you saw someone with an Allen Iverson jersey when I was growing up, you knew that person meant business. So, 2001, the Lakers win their second championship. 2002, they win their third championship. And in 2002, I watched the Lakers win their championship, and I had left my downtown apartment stupidly because I just said stop paying rent, and then I left the apartment and just ditched it for a year and went all around Texas, Austin, San Antonio, and South Texas. But I could have easily just continued to live in my apartment because the living arrangement and everything. But I didn't, and so I was working out of a pizza shop called Bits and Pizzas, and there was only two drivers at this pizza shop, me and this guy Thomas. And Thomas was a shorter guy. The only reason I bring that up is because he had so much animosity, and he was a lot of short dudes that I met where I don't give them a reason to hate me, but they just secretly hate me. And at the same time, they want to associate with me. They want to talk to me. They want to interact with me just to fulfill their addiction to competing with me. There's an individual at these apartments here that just a kid in his 20s that just stands outside my apartment, and one of the last things I said to him when I communicated with him was I'm never having a conversation with you again. And right when I said that, that's when he oh no, I need you to, compete. I don't know you, dude. I'm never talking to you. I was probably got nervous because of people. But this isn't about that, but that's an example. So Thomas didn't like me. We were both drivers at this pizza place, and I drove a van and he drove a little white car. Both of us had shitty cars, and he lived in an apartment with his Native American girlfriend who was 6 feet tall, and he was 5 feet, barely over 5 feet tall. So it was an odd couple they looked. And we watched the NBA finals there. The Lakers play the Nets, and he was from Los Angeles and liked the Lakers, and he would just talk so much shit over and over, and just did not like me and did not like the Spurs and did not like San Antonio, and would just talk crap. And during those finals, I predicted that the Lakers would sweep the Nets, and he's like, they won't sweep them. And then I was right about that. They ended up sweeping them that year, and we had a $20 bet. And then since I liked the Spurs and he liked the Lakers, that was the last game of the season, so he paid me that $20. Or no, he didn't pay me that $20. He's like, how about double or nothing? Well, let's bet on the next year's championship. If the Lakers win, you give me $100, and if the Spurs win, I'll give you $100. And I was like, okay, that's a bet. Or he's like, I'll give you $120 to make up for the 20 that I already won, that I had already won. So I'm like, okay. And that was in 2002. So then 2003, I'm just watching the Spurs the whole season. I talk about it in my book, Gonzo Education. And when the Spurs win their second championship in 2003. And during the whole season, I have that on the back of my head. Oh, Thomas, look out. The Spurs are one of the best records. Look out. The Spurs have a great team. I'm just thinking, you're going to owe me $100, and there's not anything you can do or say about it. And at the end of that season, the Lakers did not win the championship. The San Antonio Spurs won the championship. And uh, Thomas left town. He left the job at the Bits and Pizzas, and he left Austin, San Antonio, and he went to California, even though he had like warrants or some shit. He was like a shorter skater dude. And he left town and never paid me the $120, even though I totally straight out won. And then I remember like I was in a city like in Phoenix or something like that. And like I had driven by him and he was like on a skateboard and I saw him and I'll never forget him, but he saw me and he's like, oh shit. And he like got scared because he knows he owes me that $120. But I don't, it's not about the money. I just want him to admit that that's the most unmanly thing to do. Like he didn't admit he was wrong. He didn't admit he lost the bet. He just left town. But so I've always like, oh, but I fucking won that. San Antonio Spurs won the fucking championship in 2003. So 2002 Lakers Nets, I watched that at his place. And he made me leave like at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. one night. And it was just so cold of him. And his girlfriend was like, you can crash on the couch. And then his girlfriend went to sleep. Then I went to sleep and he wakes me up and he's like, hey, I don't want you staying here. You got to go right now. It's my place. You got to go. You know, I was like, but she said I could just, you know, crash on the couch. She's like, no, but I'm calling the shots. You have to go. And then he just wanted to like play big dog, the little dog. And in the middle of the night, I was like, well, just give me a couple hours until, you know, and then he's like, no, you have to leave right now. And it wasn't even his place. It was her place. And her mom was always visiting and she was paying for the apartment. So I remember that and I knew that. And so that even made it even worse. And then eventually I was just like, all right, whatever, dude. And then I left and I could imagine his girlfriend woke up the next day and was like, oh, where's Greg? I was like, oh, I made him leave, you know, because I'm a tough little guy, you know. But yeah, you tough little guy, Thomas. How's those skateboarding's working? Because how those Lakers doing? Because the Spurs are doing a-okay, and I'm doing a-okay. 20 years later, Thomas, you still owe me $125, and I ain't at $120, and I'm charging interest too. All right. So that was in 2003. The San Antonio Spurs won an incredible playoff series. And that was the last few months that my mom was alive. And me, my mom, and my brother were staying in the Warren Inn, which is the most ghetto hotel in San Antonio. And how we found ourselves there is amazing. It was my brother's idea, most likely, because that was the cheapest hotel. But my mom has spent her whole life staying at nice hotels, traveling the world. You know, she had never been in a place like that. The only reason she was there at this point because she had lost her mind and was totally schizophrenic. So me, my schizophrenic mother, and my twin brother were staying at a San Antonio, like in town San Antonio uh, motel, the Warren Inn. You can look it up. It's the most ghetto motel. It's probably shut down by now. But we were staying there like on the weekly rate. And our mom used to always ask, like when we were growing up, she didn't have custody of us, but when we were visiting her, when, you know, we'd be watching the Spurs games and her favorite player was Avery Johnson. But she would always ask us, she'd come in from her room as we're watching, and she's like, did the Spurs win? Are the Spurs winning? And sometimes she'd sit there and watch a couple shots like, yay, Avery Johnson, or yay, David Robinson. But at this point in 2003, she had totally stopped taking her medications and then totally lost her mind. And so I tried to like get some normalcy into her as the Spurs were winning the championship. Me and my brother were watching it in this cheap motel room. And I was like, hey, mom, look, the Spurs are about to win the championship. But then she thought it was like a delusion. She's like, you boys can't believe everything on TV. I was like, you used to like the Spurs. Remember Avery Johnson? And she had met Avery Johnson because she took us to a couple different like hot dogs and hoops sponsored by HEB events when we were growing up, where kids got to shoot free throws and practice their dribbling between cones and stuff like that. And Avery Johnson was always really nice to her and everything. It's so sad. Avery Johnson, my mother loved you. Hey, Jay. My mom also loved the wrestler Ravishing Rick Rude. Ooh, doo, 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 doo. Google that guy on YouTube. But yeah, her favorite player was Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson said I had a nice shot because I shot great free throws with great form, and I still do. But back then, I first figured it out, and Avery Johnson was like, "Nice shot." And after Avery Johnson told me that, I was like, "Oh, cool!" Like, and because he was sincere, and so after that, I kept what I was doing with that free throw. That was like one of the first times that I, started doing it with the four dribbles and then no jump, regular free throw. And Avery Johnson was like, "Nice shot," and then so I was like, "Oh, okay, let me keep doing that." So even today, when I'm throwing trash in the rubbish can, I'll keep my feet and I'll do like four dribbles, be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and I always have the most success doing that. So, all right, but yeah, in 2003 when the Spurs won the championship, my mom was nuts. All right, she thought like space creatures were coming on TV. She thought the television was like a matrix. Maybe it was. She thought like she was trying to escape the matrix basically, and the television was part of the matrix, and it was all fake and everything is what she was saying. And there were no Spurs, and there was no NBA, and there was no championship, and there wasn't even a game called basketball. So that's what my mom thought at the time. But the we were in downtown, not downtown, but near San Antonio, like the west side. And as soon as the Spurs won the championship, all hell broke loose and fireworks and screaming and honking and it's a big city, and no city is safe in general, and not especially after a team wins a championship. So there was like rioting in the streets, and our mom, already flipping out from her schizophrenia, locked herself in the bedroom. And then me and my brother, we went and drove around, stupidly. We're like, let's go celebrate the championship by sitting in traffic, So then we got in the car that our mom had given us, some cheap red Suzuki Swift, and we're driving around San Antonio in this cheap red car, just wasting gas. And then by the time we get back home and all the traffic and everything, it's like 2 or 3 a.m. And my mom had deadbolted the door, and we didn't know if anything was okay. And all of our stuff was inside, and we're knocking on the door, and she wouldn't answer or anything because she had gotten freaked out by the fireworks. But then I talk about this in my book, Gonzo Education. But then the police officer had to come, and they had to kick down the door, and our mom was like, "Oh," she was just sitting right there. And she's like, "I didn't hear you," as the door almost falls on her face as it slams down. And the cop's like, "What the hell? You didn't hear us. We were just banging on the door for an hour." And then he's like, "Are you all right mentally?" Then he's like telling me and my brother, he's like, "You have to get your mother some help. She's not right mentally. She needs to be in a hospital." And then we're like, "Yeah, we're aware of this." And then we lay down. We put the broken door, set it up against the wall, put some furniture against the where the door would be, put some furniture there, and laid down. And we were so tired. We went to sleep. We woke up, and our mom had left, and she didn't take the car, and she didn't take her cell phone. She had just up and left, and there was no door to this ghetto motel, and the crackheads were already sniffing in. They're like, like the hyenas they are. And so me and Michael were like, "Fuck this!" The Spurs won the championship. San Antonio is dangerous where we're at. Let's go get in the car with the cell phone. We'll try to hope mom calls, and until then, we'll just hit IH-35 and let's go to New Braunfels, go to Seguin, go to the river, go to the Guadalupe. Kick back, maybe sneak in the Slitterbun, and call it a summer and make it the summer of 2003. And that's what we did. And so the summer of 2003, right before I started as a full-time college student, we drove up and down IH-35 and going from San Antonio to Austin, and stopping in New Braunfels, San Marcos, going to the University of Texas campus, going to the Texas State campus, going to the ACC campus, going to all public libraries in Austin, public libraries in San Antonio, Walmart parking lots, every which way. We know the area between San Antonio and Austin on IH-35 better than anybody. We've walked it before. That's another story. We walked it at the beginning of 2003, actually. In January 2003, me and my twin brother walked from San Antonio to Austin. And that summer, we found ourselves living in a little red car and off of I-35 in the exact stretch of area that we had walked on 6 months earlier, living in that summer out of their car. And it was really interesting on the same stretch of land between San Antonio and Austin. So that was the Spurs championship in 2003. And if you want to know more about this, you can check out my book, Gonzo Education, where I go into more detail about me and my brother walking from San Antonio to Austin, as well as the San Antonio Spurs 2003 championship, and living in the little red car off of the outskirts of IH-35. It was so hot, and that car didn't have air conditioning. The only way we could keep cool would be driving up and down the highway at 60, 70 miles per hour and letting the cool air just come into the car. But yeah, it's a very memorable time in my life. And then that fall, that August, I enroll in college, which was extremely significant. And I realized, wow, I'm very intelligent. I'm very good at school. This is something my parents probably should have told me. But yeah, enrolled in community college, and bam, straight A's, bam, smartest person in the class, bam, honors program, bam, editor of the newspaper, bam, transfer to the University of Texas Journalism School. So that was the start of it, the summer of 2003. And I think we'll go ahead and end it there. I'm looking forward to the basketball game. That was a great little story there. I hope you all enjoyed that. And I'm just gonna cut the podcast a little shorter today. And I hope everybody out there listening enjoyed the sound of my voice. Once again, the Mr. G podcast is available wherever you get podcasts: Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, probably the best place, iHeart Music Podcasts, or just Google Mr. G Podcast Hawaii. Also, the full episodes of the Mr. G podcasts are uploaded immediately onto Twitter and to YouTube. So if you want to see my pretty face and not only hear it, you can go on to Twitter at Gregory Brandt or on YouTube at Mr. G Live. So thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy today's Game 6 basketball game. Go Jimmy Butler. Go Miami Heat. Kick some ass. I don't like the Celtics. I just want that to be known. And Jimmy Butler loves coffee. He carries a cappuccino machine with him to every game. One of the most interesting professional athletes you will ever imagine. So here's to you, Jimmy Butler. Get him. Aloha.